Today's Cosplay Con Talk episode is sponsored by Moco Queen Color Contacts. Don't forget to use my code Wayne for 10% off at checkout at mocoqueen.com. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. How's it, everyone? Wayne the Unknown here, and welcome back to another episode of myself. Sorry, muted myself. Welcome back to another episode of Cosplay Con Talk, where we basically discuss everything pertaining to the cosplay community and conventions. Tonight, we are going to be doing a podcast panel, which we have done in a while, and it's also this month marks 3 years since Cosplay Con Talk was created for this channel. So, yeah, going on strong for 3 years. So I figured, to mark 3 years, I might as well do a panel talking about the first question I always ask: what got you into cosplay? But before that, I'm going to introduce some panelists, if some new faces and familiar faces. So I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves, starting with Consul.
Hello, I am Consul of Cosplay, and I have been cosplaying since 2009. I've been on Wayne's podcast for, I don't know, quite a while now.
I think almost 2 years.
And I always, yeah, almost, yeah. And I always enjoy it. I think it's a fun time, and I'm here just for fun and to have a good time and share with the cosplay community.
Next up, Koi, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
My name is Cosplay Pond, and I have been cosplaying since 2015, so about 9 years now. And I'm very excited to be here and share what I know.
Welcome aboard, as always. And last but not least, ShadowClaw Cosplay. I think your recommendation, I think you came on because of the podcast I did a while back with Bathroom of the Future, I believe.
Actually, this is my first time being on.
Oh, that's right,
I know, I had reached out to you about you were looking for a co-host for a new project that you're working on. I won't say anything
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that
That
just
that's
yet.
that's still that's gonna be in the works for a while, sadly.
But I tried to be on before, but unfortunately, just as they say in the film and TV industry, conflict of schedule.
Yeah,
Um,
it happens.
I've been cosplaying since about 2015, 2016. Started right before I got into college, then started getting more serious into it, and I've been doing it ever since.
So you're almost in that same category as Koi, as cosplay veteran. You've almost been cosplaying for 10 years, and you've seen the change that cosplay and conventions have had over the past few years.
Yeah, I it's been interesting because right as I started getting into it, things kind of started changing. And then of course you kind of have to go with the change and then learn to adapt a little bit. And then of course things that have happened in the last several years certainly had major effects on it, but we can get into
Oh
that
yeah,
later. So
definitely. So, as always with these panels, everyone will be going around sharing their experiences with a specific topic, and then towards the end, they will be given their advice as, for educational purposes. Just know these are their own experiences, their own advice, and all that fun stuff. So, I guess first off, Koi, since you're new here, um, what got you into cosplay?
It started back in middle school. We were in the height of a whole bunch of different fandoms, especially with Homestuck, and all of my friends were being like, oh my God, like this is so cool. We're seeing a whole bunch of stuff go around, and my group of friends decided that we really wanted to try it. So my way back old group of friends started crafting and whatnot, and we just found like a really deep love for it, especially me. So that's kind of it was like a mutual decision to start it all together.
Thanks. And you said that was back in middle school?
Yeah.
How did like
Or
feel to like just get into cosplay?
no, wait. that was the start of high school. That was my bad. So I've actually been cosplaying since 2013. That was
Oh,
my bad.
oh, so you're definitely a cosplay veteran. You've been cosplaying for 11 years.
My bad. I got my dates all mixed around.
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah, so that was back in middle school in 2013 where we had all decided that we wanted to start cosplaying.
Nice. Shadow, same question. What got you into cosplaying?
Well, I sort of have an answer and I sort of don't. Growing up, I was a theater kid, but not a on the stage in front of everybody theater kid. I was terrified of doing it. I hated memorizing lines, I hated, having that, I guess, that pressure on me. So I was always behind the scenes. I was either doing sound or lighting or technical directing, that kind of thing. Um, and funny enough, even as a kid, I wasn't the biggest fan of like dressing up on Halloween or things like that. I don't know why. Just into this day, I don't know why. Um, I remember right when I started cosplaying, and I'm probably aging myself here, was about 2015, 2016. I was just finished high school, and we had a small local convention come to town. Like I had never been to one before. This was kind of like, at a multi-purpose center type thing. And we went, and my costume, because Five Nights at Freddy's had just came out, like the first game had just came out,
Oh, wow.
and
That's aging myself right there.
yeah, I I had a hoodie that looked like Freddy's body, and I had a top hat that I cut out some like cardstock ears on and put them on, and then I did some very crude like face paint to make me look like a robot. And I have probably have pictures of it somewhere, but I look back and cringe at it. But I think honestly, it's just wanting to finally break out of that shell too, and like when I go to conventions, I can, get away from the stresses of everyday life. I can dress up as characters that are not necessarily real. Um, I mean, I even met my fiance through cosplay. We met, I can that's for a later question,
Oh, yeah.
but yes, I think it's just a way to be free and kind of away from me and the problems that me has to deal with and be able to just go and be someone else for a little.
Nice. Next up, console. I know it's been a while since I've asked you, and for those who probably haven't seen it, I guess in a console you're going to be answering the skin. What got you into cosplay?
So, little young baby version of me, I was around like 12-ish years old. And as one does when they are hyper fixating on anime or video games or something, you look up and Google and whatever, everything about your favorite characters and everything like that. So here I am, little 12-year-old me on my computer, or on my parents' computer, I should say, Googling my favorite series. And then I see photos of people dressed up as the characters. And I was like, oh, that looks cool. I want to do that. And so I'm clicking on these pictures and reading, and I'm like, oh, there's things called conventions where people go and they dress up and do things. I want to do that. And so I begged my parents for forever until they finally let me go to a convention in with heavy restrictions. My sister had to go with me, my dad had to go with me. And so I kind of dragged my half my family along with me in order to go and do this convention. It was a Komoricon 2009 was my first convention. So a little 12-year-old me, and I was dressed up as Tony Chopper from One Piece. And so I had like a little blue nose and a little antler hat and things like that. And it was great. It was awesome. I have old videotape recordings of like some of the events and panels like on actual like tapes. Like it's yeah, I have some pretty old memorabilia from that con, but it was a lot of fun.
You guys are making me feel old talking about tapes and all this stuff.
I know.
I need like a
I
secret discount.
know. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I just saw it online and I was like, that's what I want to do. That seems so fun. And here I am. I haven't stopped since.
So back to Koi. First off, what is your cat's name? I see your cat right there.
Her name is Maddie.
Oh, she's so precious. Reminds me of my next door neighbor's cat, almost.
She gets very jealous when I sit in my gaming chair and she's not up here with me.
Oh. So now back to you. Um, what was it like cosplaying for the first time? Like, you just got into it, it's like then you're like, okay, finally now I get to cosplay. What was that like?
So, cosplaying for the first time, it honestly felt very free. It felt like I had just gotten the ability to be someone else who isn't me for a chance. It was just, I was able to escape from like having to worry about school or worrying about like growing up essentially. I was around all of these like-minded people who are just here to have fun essentially, and I got to explore kind of different parts of my personality, got to tap into my inner theater kid a little bit more from always like what Shadow was saying, I was always very much behind the scenes, so I gotta tap into more of my goofy personality and just kind of be who I wanted to be, which was very nice.
I mean, it seems like it's like it seems like it's had a pretty good impact though, since you first
Yeah,
started.
it's had a great impact on my life. I've met so many friends and have done so many wonderful things that I don't think I would have done before.
And I've come to notice this. I know it's not all, but some like a good chunk of cosplayers were like once upon a time theater kids in some sort of the way.
Yeah, it's very
Um,
strange how they just collect.
I mean, you're not wrong. Um, Back to you, Shadow. What was it like cosplaying for the first time? Like you just got into it and it's like now I finally get to do it. What was that like?
So I'm not going to count the very, very first time that I was telling you about as kind of my first, just because it was so simple. It was more just trying to experience a convention for the first time. Um, I'm going to go back to probably my first serious costume that I did. I had a friend of mine help me make a set of armor from Elder Scrolls V Skyrim.
Ooh, nice.
And I had saved up for a while, and I commissioned from a maker here in Texas a mask of my Khajiit character. So I took that to a convention in Birmingham, actually one that we just came back from last weekend, Comic-Con. That's at the BJCC every year. And
Nice.
I kind of accredit that as to like my first real cosplay experience. That was like the first time I had a real costume, you know. And quite frankly, I was nervous. Just because I had never done anything this big before. You know, I'm walking around, people are stopping me, taking my picture and all this. I even got interviewed by the local CBS station that was there. And they put me in the highlight reel for the convention that
Nice.
year. And I still have the clip saved somewhere. But it was fun, but it was nerve-wracking at the same time because it was a real learning experience because at the time I didn't know what I was doing. I say that like I know what I'm doing now. I really don't, but
Do we ever know what we're
uh,
ever doing though?
well,
Essentially.
that's a valid point, but I remember standing in the contest line and I'm sitting there. I'd never been in a contest before, so I was standing in line to get prejudged. And I didn't know kind of what all this was, and then all of a sudden my pieces are falling off and little me is freaking out trying to like pull the pieces up
Cosplay
and
mishaps happen, man.
oh yeah, well believe it or not, that's how I actually met one of my really good friends. She was standing next to me and her husband was with her and she's like trying to help me get everything switch situated and manage to rig some things up so that way I could at least walk in there and not have everything just off of me at once, you know. It was it was a learning experience and it was stressful at the same time, but it was fun. I have a lot of good memories of it. I got a lot of praise for the costume. I still have it. It's sitting in a trunk in our storage unit. I need to kind of reshape the armor and
If you
touch
have
it up
if you have a
close.
photo of that, I'd like to show it.
Let me see. It's on my Instagram. I don't think I have one handy. Let me check.
Oh, I mean, if you can like send the picture on yours, well, we'll do that later.
Yeah.
Consul, back to you. I know I asked this question 2 years ago. I'm gonna ask it again. What was it like cosplaying for the first time for you? Like I said, you just, you got into the hobby, and I was like, okay, now I'm actually, gonna cosplay.
Um, for me, it was like I still remember kind of that first experience, like walking down the registration line at like KomoriCon, like it was yesterday. I remember it so vividly. It was such a life-changing moment. So I was obviously cosplaying from One Piece, which is at the time was extremely not that it's not popular now, but it was a different level back in 2009 as far as like how popular it was. During the same time of like Naruto and Bleach at their height of that popularity as well. So, this was also before kind of those like pre-manufactured costumes. So to see like specifically Tony Chopper, which didn't have a pre-manufactured outfit, um on like this like really short, like cute little kid, like walking down the registration line, like having such a popular series, it was like, oh my gosh, Chopper, oh my gosh, Chopper. And I was like so excited that so many people knew who I was because I had no friends that were into anime. I didn't quite realize how popular One Piece was at the time or how popular anime was at the time or even how popular my character was. Like I was in my own little bubble um by myself for such a long time, and so as soon as I like got to this convention and started walking down the registration line, it was like nonstop, like, oh, you look so good, like you look awesome, like, can I take your photos, things like that. And it was such a just so exciting experience for such a like little kid, like who thought I was like nerdy and different and like I was kind of the loner in school. So to have that kind of like it helped boost my confidence, maybe a little too much, but it was it was awesome. I still remember it like it was yesterday, and it really helped me kind of cosplay for so long, for as long as I have been going. It was awesome. It was great. I had a
Hmm.
blast.
It sounds like
Um
you have.
yeah, it was such a good experience. Like I will never forget that for as long as I live.
Back to you, Koi. I'm not sure if you mentioned it or not. What was your first official cosplay?
So my first official one, because my very first one never got finished. My very first one, I believe, was Deku from My Hero. It was very popular at the time,
Oh
and
yeah.
I resonated with him so much that I was like, I have to cosplay him. And this was back in, I believe, I think 20, oh my God. I think it was 2018 was when I really started to really get into it, kind of like grasp what I was starting to do, like finding the right wigs and kind of finding the right sources to gather bits and pieces for this cosplay.
So you made sure to do your research before like just putting it all together then, I take it.
Yeah, my first non-official one, I had quite a few mishaps, like really bad wigs or just props not going the way that I wanted to, learning how to do makeup and not really understanding it. So I take Deku as like my first serious, like in-depth character that I've cosplayed.
What was your first unofficial?
That would have been Fefri and Nepeta from Homestuck.
I've never heard of them. Then again, I never really got into Homestuck back in the day. I've heard stories of Homestuck cosplays,
It's
but
an
we're not
obscure
talking about
fandom,
that.
that's for sure.
Yeah. Because you already also kind of already you also answered my question of like what made you decide to choose Deku as well. I know I like when they answer like when I don't have to ask. Um,
Yeah.
back to you, ShadowCloud. I'm not sure if I asked what made you decide to cosplay your Khajiit character from Skyrim.
Uh, Main thing was just I was obsessed with Skyrim at the time. Sure, it had been out for several years already. Um, but I got really heavily into the modding scene. I really liked
Oh,
installing, and I didn't go crazy. Like I didn't install a bunch of like silly stuff. Most of mine was like improving meshes, making it more high resolution, things like that, like more immersion type stuff. Because I loved the game so much. Because growing up, I didn't really have I got so used to playing single player games. I didn't have good internet and I didn't have the computer or the friends to play, online games with. Like when I tell people this, because I grew up out in the country, and back then in the country meant you had 0 to 1 options for internet. 9 times out of 10, that was a horrible option. I kid you not, when I say I remember downloading it was either a game on Steam or something. I think I was downloading Terraria for the first time years ago, and my download speed was 14 kilobytes a second.
oh, so you're like waiting days to play a game.
I remember it took me a week to download a movie off of iTunes.
Oh man.
And my mom would have to go to the local Starbucks to download things if she wanted it. This was years ago, but no, I was just enamored with Skyrim. It was like the biggest single player game I had done at the time. I loved downloading mods, and I was just obsessed with it. And honestly, it kind of ties into what my username is. It's just because um, I quickly found more joy in cosplaying characters that were not human because it was more of a challenge. Because the Khajiit, obviously, I said I could either do special effects makeup or I could do a mask. And me at the time, not having any form of makeup experience, I said I'm gonna do a mask. But now I've dabbled in special effects. I know how to do things. Like some of my recent stuff, I can show you. I did some special effects. Um, but that's kind of how I came to it. Is I want a character from Skyrim, not human, and my friend was also working on a set of armor at the time and was like, I have a bunch of templates we could choose from to make you your first set of armor. And so it was just kind of meant to be in a way that just kind of, paved the way from there.
Nice. And back to you, Consul. I know you kind of what made you specifically want to choose Tony Chopper as a first cosplay?
So, growing up, I was obsessed with pirates, and that was the whole reason I watched One Piece. Little kid me was like, a cartoon about pirates? Which, I mean, One Piece is barely about pirates, let's be honest.
I
But
mean, you're not wrong.
but like little kid me was super obsessed with pirates. I had pirate birthday parties every year. Like I was obsessed. And so I watched One Piece. I was like, little cartoon about pirates. This is so fun. And Chopper was my favorite. And that's simply what it was. I was like, he's cute, he's small, and he's a little talking reindeer. How could you not love him? And I remember bringing a photo of Chopper to my mom. I printed it out on the computer, being like, this is what I want to do for my costume. And my mom was like, full just hand and face. Like, of course, the one non-human character in the series is the one that you want to be. And I was like, yeah.
I mean,
So I get that, ShadowClaw. I totally understand that. I was like, I'm gonna be that one non-human main character.
oh, we got blue lights in the background for Chloe.
But yeah, that's really kind of it. I just really liked Chopper. I thought he was super cute and adorable, and I thought he would be fun.
Looks like, hey! I think they got their lights.
Michelle will give me just a minute here.
all,
I'm
all,
going to shut my door.
all technical difficulties, Koi? Oh, the words are hard today.
Everything just decided to start falling at once.
Oh no.
Excuse
So
me
now,
for just a second.
okay. So now, Koi, back to you. What what's it like what's it like cosplaying now compared to when you first cosplayed back then? Like, what have you like? Has there been any differences? Any changes since you first started cosplay compared to now?
Ooh, when I first started cosplaying, obviously being involved with the My Hero fandom and kind of not knowing what I was doing, the groups of people that I surrounded myself exhibited some like toxic behavior, which kind of sucks to admit, like existing around that kind of source of energy. But I figured out how to remove myself from those certain situations and actually like found a group of like local friends and like out of state friends who are very supportive and just like overall wonderful people who that we all really like help each other out, because
Nice.
I didn't really have that when I started beginning. It was very much a figure it out for yourself kind of situation. Nobody kind of wanted to help each other kind of like learn how to style wigs or share makeup tricks and stuff like that. But now with the group that I'm involved in, we're constantly sharing ideas. No matter if it's something that we wanted to do personally, we want to see them go out and do it. And it's been very supportive. So I went from a very like toxic kind of start to cosplay to and just like an overall like immaculate experience with friends.
Nice. And it seems like it's really like as I mentioned before, it seems like it's had a really positive impact too. But yeah, no, I kind of agree. I think we can all agree on that. Like, cosplay has definitely gotten better-ish. There's still those people who feel like, no one, not everyone, no, people, if you aren't a fan of it, you shouldn't be doing it kind of mentality. But I feel like cosplay is for everyone though.
Oh, 100%.
Next, same question with you, ShadowClaw. Has there been any changes since you first started cosplaying to cosplaying now?
So, yes and no. I will say one thing for the record, for those that do not know me. I am a plus size cosplayer. So obviously I have a harder time finding costumes that like it's harder for me to just go and buy something like off of Amazon or any of these overseas sites, anything like that. 75% of the time I have to make it. Because either it's out there doesn't fit me, or it's out of my price range if it fits me, or it's just not good quality and it's not worth it. When I first started, at least from what I saw, things were generally more it felt like there was more variety in things. And hear me out when I say this. Um, when you could go to a convention and you would see so many different costumes of so many different fandoms or shows or games or what have you. Um, and then as the years progressed, it seemed like more people would start cosplaying from the thing that's the most popular. Now, not to discourage from the thing that's most popular. What I mean is, like, obviously, when My Hero came out, everybody was cosplaying from My Hero. When Has Been Hotel, the pilot came out, now the show's just come out. Everybody was cosplaying from that, even though everybody knew nothing about the characters. Um, it's not the fact that people are cosplaying strictly from the most popular things. It's the fact that the community seems to not support cosplayers who are not cosplaying the popular things. Like, so here's one example. 2 years ago, I went to Holiday Matsuri. My fiance and I went with some friends of ours, and Genshin Impact was still very, very big. Like it had just came out. It was like the biggest, newest thing, and everybody was cosplaying from Genshin. I kid you not, at this convention, they had at least 2 or 3 meetups that were slam full just of Genshin cosplayers. And if you were not, it seemed like either in Genshin or anything else that was mainly popular, you were pretty much a ghost the entire weekend. Like, one example I'll give you is this last weekend we went to this convention in Birmingham. I don't know if any of our other panelists here, if anyone in here is familiar with the video game Cult of the Lamb. It's pretty popular indie game. So I finished a cosplay of the Lamb. Been working on it for several
Nice.
months. I haven't posted anything about it yet.
Can't
so
wait
I
to,
can,
can't wait to see it though.
So I finished a cosplay of him and stayed up all night Friday finishing it, and I mean all night. Like I sat down, worked on it. I turned around, looked at the window, and then there was the sun.
I think
So
we've all been there.
I wore him around all day Saturday, and I kid you not, I had one person stop and take my picture. Not one person said anything else to me. Not one person, said this, that, the other. And, I unfortunately I didn't get to compete. I missed prejudging for the contests. I was doing photo shoots for people that had paid me. But I felt like a ghost the entire time. And I looked around the convention. There's people dressed up in Has-Been Hotel that are stopping and getting photos left and right. There's Genshin getting photos left and right. And it just seems like whenever I post stuff, like if I post something that's not the most current, most hottest thing, it gets ignored. But then if I know people that post the same thing that's like the hot trending thing right now, they'll get, 10 times the attention, the traction that I do. And it just seems like some of the community does not support the same type of stuff that it used to. And it's from trend to trend to trend to trend. And if you're anything else except those, you're basically a ghost. And I think that's one major thing that's changed in the last 8 to 10 years that I've been doing this.
I mean, it's no. I'm sure we all can agree. Every year, there's going to be that new cosplay trend where everyone cosplay. I mean, you see people. It happens. I mean, I'm not like I said. I'm not like bashing on them. I think the
No,
cosplays are well done.
exactly. I'm not wrong. I'm not hating on their costumes at all. Like
We just want to make that clear, everyone.
Of course, yeah. I'm not hating on the costumes at all. Like, if I see a well done cosplay, I'm gonna say, "That looks fantastic." You did a fantastic job. You deserve compliments, and you worked hard on it, and it's the way it should be.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be. You shouldn't only reserve those compliments for people that work hard on something if it's like the most current trendy thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point I feel like I'm trying to make. I feel like that people are only going to give compliments to somebody that's the most current trendy thing.
Understandable. Consul. Now back to you. Has there been any changes or differences from when you first started cosplaying to cosplaying currently?
Oh yeah, there's been a million changes all over the place. Well, first of all, the accessibility of cosplay has blown up over even in just the past like 3 to 4 years, just how much more accessible the cosplay community has gotten, whether it be pre-made cosplay, costumes, or just raw materials. I remember having to bevel my own EVA foam, and now they have EVA foam bevels, dowels, rods, triangles, all sorts of EVA foam shapes from cosplay specific vendors. I can probably list 3 shops off the top of my head that sell just EVA foam, Warbler, other crafting materials that are cosplay centric alone, which is absolutely mind blowing to me. Another big change is social media. I probably have no record of anything prior to like 2016, just because I didn't think to keep record of it other than a couple of like actual like from a disposable camera photos of a lot of my old costumes. It wasn't until I created an Instagram in around, I want to say like 2016, 2015 time where I was like, wait, I can actually keep track of what I do? What? That's crazy. And so because social media wasn't a huge thing, there's so many people I met and what that I would only ever see at conventions because I had no other way to talk to them. And me being a 12-year-old, I didn't have a phone. I wasn't giving out any sort of phone number or social media or Facebook. I didn't have any of that sort of thing. And I wasn't cool enough to have a MySpace, you know?
Oh God, that died really fast though. So you weren't missing much with MySpace.
So because social media wasn't a huge thing, social media influencers that are cosplay centric wasn't a huge thing. So that was another huge change, especially with quarantine and COVID-19. As soon as everyone was inside, everyone was online, even more so than they were already, which vastly boosted the popularity of cosplay as a hobby and art form. So, as well as mixing that with acting and voice acting and performing in general with the rise of Musically first, that then became TikTok, and other apps like that, kind of blending all those things, bringing in those like theater kids and performing arts people, band kids, singers, all kind of blending those hobbies together. So that was also a huge change. I feel like also the way that conventions are run, cosplay contests are run, basically anything that you can think of has changed. There's this huge the cosplay is not consent movement. That was a big change because I lived to tell the tale of the yaoi paddles and yuri paddles and pre cosplay is not consent movement. That was a time. So that whole movement changed a lot of the in-person convention gathering scene. So yeah, there's just been so much change throughout the years.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I could talk forever about
Well,
the change.
that kind of actually brings me to a question. Back to Koi. From what Consul was talking about, do you think if someone wanted to get into cosplay today, do you think them finding resources would be much easier compared to the resources you had back then?
Oh, 100%. It's insane, like how much you can find online, from pre-made to getting like almost the exact fabric that you need online, going to craft stores and just finding a lot more like material. Like even Michael's has started to expand on what they keep in stores because I worked there. So I had a lot of like crafting people coming in and asking for ideas, and I was able to redirect them to actually like helpful things without having to go to like a hardware store or trying to find like EVA foam and stuff like that. And like what Council was saying, having like being able to list like 3 sites off the top of your head that just strictly sell EVA foam is just like amazing, because it's giving you access to the resources that you need to help you create props or help you oh my god, to like alter your cosplays or turn like pre-existing items into props. It has definitely become way easier to get your hands on those sort of items.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, like back in the day, I mean, unless you had the money or the know-how, you couldn't afford a heat gun. Now, like you can afford heat gun to, to make for armor for your shoes, or you can get war blood and all that. Yeah, it's. I mean, if you were to actually now brings me to a second here. If you were to cosplay, if you were just getting into cosplay, do you think it'd be easier for you as well if you had just got into cosplay?
Yeah, especially with social media and whatnot, having videos to help explain how to make certain props or sewing techniques or wig styling techniques. It's available now because people are going online and sharing their knowledge that they know with how to like sew in wefts or create your own hairlines, how to dip dye wigs, easier ways to like detangle wigs, de-shine them, or even like simply alter a cosplay. Even with like, especially with like Doki Doki cosplays, like buying cosplays and being able to search up tutorials before buying or like getting like review videos of certain sites and whatnot, and having videos that help you explain how to put on your cosplay from certain sites is a lot more helpful than having to mess around and find out.
Oh, I agree. Same question for you, Shadow. Do you think if someone was to get into cosplay today, do you think they would have a much easier I mean I don't want to use the word advantage, but do you think they would have it much easier compared to like how it was for you back then?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I remember starting out making my first props, and I think our other two guests can relate. Um, my foam that I used was the floor mats from Harbor Freight. I
Oh,
think we've all at least
good
bought
old
one.
gym mats.
Well, yeah, good old gym mats. I remember using those religiously when I first started until my fiance turned me on to the magical wonders of being able to buy rolls of foam. That was mind blowing to me. I'm like, oh my God, you can buy all this in a giant roll and just cut from it. I was used to. I remember I bought like 3 packs of those floor mats one time for something, and like in the bottom of the trash bag, I had nothing but those stupid little like puzzle piece edges that you have to take off and cut off, and just you can't really do anything with them. Um, but I completely agree that nowadays it would be a lot easier because, um, like like they said, you can there's more places you can get cosplays ready from now if their sizes are available to you. If not, there's tutorials, lots of tutorials on how to make things. As far as tools are more accessible now, I mean, I've over the years I've bought a heat gun, I've bought a Dremel. In the last 2 years, I've been getting into 3D printing. I have a printer. I've been
Nice.
modeling. I've been trying to learn how to model. Most of the time, it's downloading an STL and kind of modifying it to what I need. That's what I've been learning more how to do. But then also learning how to actually print it because that's a whole nother science. But I mean, say you needed a custom piece for your costume, and instead of having to make it, you can literally just, print it right then and there you go, it's done, instead of having to make it from scratch. Um, Another thing, like nowadays, people are incorporating more electronics into their costumes, like sound and lights. Personally, that's something I'm learning about, like coding and NeoPixels and Adafruits and things like that. There's
Nice.
just tutorials, books, all sorts of things on YouTube that teach you how to do it. There's makeup tutorials. I mean, it's really, and don't get me wrong, it's still a challenge to learn, but you have more things there at your disposal to teach you and to learn from versus several years ago when it was not as what's the word I'm looking for? It was not as mainstream. Like I agree that the pandemic kind of brought things more to light as that this is more of just a hobby with multiple aspects and a bunch of nerds just at a convention dressing up. That there's crafting. Well, let's be real. Years ago, I mean, we've all seen the Big Bang Theory episode where they're all dressed as Star Trek characters and get stranded in the middle of the desert, and they're all being made fun of. Um, but there's so many aspects to it now, like makeup styling, hair, wig styling, electronics, crafting, using tools, things like that. I think the pandemic really brought a lot of that to light, and that it's not just this weird little niche hobby, that it's got something for everyone in it. Um, so, and I think with that helping it come more mainstream, there have been more resources. Um, like you guys mentioned, there are more stores that have things now. I mean, there have been small businesses that have been created for the sole purpose of selling cosplay materials. I mean, there's one tool I have not gotten yet that was made because of cosplayers. It's called like the bevel cut or something. It's this little plastic thing that you can stick an X-Acto knife in
Oh,
and
console knows
literally
what
slide.
console knows what you're
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I think it's called the Bev Me, I think. But I know
Something
it's
like that.
something like
Yeah.
that. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I think it's called the Bev Me.
The Bev Me, yeah, I think it's yeah.
So
I want one of those so
Oh.
badly. I have to order one. But like, so there have been tools that have been created for that. I mean, there have been new materials made. Even 3D printing companies. There's a filament that's been designed. It's called I can't remember the name of it exactly, but it's basically a filament that when you print it and it comes out, it's like EVA foam. It's squishable, it's mendable, you can heat it up and reshape it, but then you can adhere it to other foam. Surebond has created its brand new line of cosplay hot glue sticks that they have one for EVA foam, they have one for PLA 3D printing. I mean, it's amazing how much more accessible all these other companies have come into and made it. Um, but yeah, I think nowadays there's so many more resources, so many more tools available at your disposal for somebody that was just getting into it. Definitely, we've definitely kind of stepped out of the dark ages, so to
Oh,
speak.
so basically, if you were to cosplay today, it would be much easier for you, like because you would
Oh,
have you have all these resources at your disposal.
oh, absolutely. I mean, I think somewhere my fiance has like the entire like Kamui cosplay book collection
Oh.
that I've referenced several times. Um, yeah, because believe me, I can't tell you how many times I go to her for help, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, because she makes plushies, she draws, she does all this art stuff, and she's always showing me something new. Um,
Ooh, what's
so
that?
oh yeah, I'll shamelessly plug her accounts later for everybody to check
Oh
out.
yeah. Console, since you kind of briefly talked about it, do you think if you were to cosplay today, it would be so much easier and you'd have with all these unlimited resources?
Um, I'm gonna say yes and no. Um, yes, obviously because of what the other panelists have talked about thus far with things being made specifically for cosplay. So long as you do not put yourself in financial debt.
No.
Do not put yourself in financial debt for a hobby,
Ooh.
period. Just don't do it.
This hobby is expensive enough. I think we can all
It
agree with
really
that.
is. Like I have slowly like a sewing machine's gonna cost you $300, and that's not even for like a super, super great one. That's for just like a mediocre machine. I have a belt sander that was $300. 3D printers are a couple $100 for even just a mediocre one. So those yes, there are millions of resources out there, but you are still going to take several years to kind of get together your arsenal to be able to craft the things that you want at the level that you want, which is that's kind of why I say also no, because A, financial, and B, there's also kind of this social aspect to it, where because it is a lot more accessible to get these things, the standard has moved up so high for costume creation. So if you it doesn't allow for a learning curve for a lot of new cosplayers. There's this automatic standard that a lot of new cosplayers are scared that they won't meet because there is no grace allowed on the online social presence of a lot of kind of the cosplay scene. So that's kind of the reason why I would say yes and no. Because if I were to start cosplaying right now today, not only would my kind of financial situation be not the best, like I wouldn't have all the resources I do because I've slowly added to my arsenal over
You
like
have the experience. You know that if something's too
Mhm.
much, you're not gonna break the bank.
But I also don't think that I would be allowed the grace of the learning curve that I had 15 years ago. Like I was hot gluing things straight to my body. Like, I was doing dumb crap. I was
Oh,
doing so much
I
dumb
mean,
crap 15
it's it's kind of a life lesson thing, and I think a good chunk of this stuff, as you mentioned, were self-taught. So, this is like the stuff that you can let people know, hey, this is what I do. Don't do that. But, if you find a safer way, then,
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say yes for the resources, no for the kind of social online aspect of it, not being able to feel like you can reach those expectations as quickly as people expect you to reach those expectations.
preach on that.
Which everyone can be at any level of cosplay at any point in their life and still be a valid cosplayer. I'm just stating that out, right?
No, no,
I'm just
I'm glad you
saying
brought that up.
overall I feel like there is a social expectation that a lot of people feel needs to be met, which it doesn't need to be met.
Hey, were you gonna say something from in there, Shadow?
Well, actually, yeah, that's I wanted to, if it's okay if I add
Oh
on.
yeah,
That's
no, no,
that's
no, go ahead.
that's kind of what I was referring to earlier. I may not have used the right words when I said it, but nowadays, I think because it's become so mainstream, like Consul said, there has been the expectation has been set. And, if your cosplay is not as good as, this person's cosplay or something, then, you know, you basically, I mean, I've seen people get hate online before and, for they're saying, oh, your cosplay is not good enough and it hasn't reached the standard. And it sucks that it's feel that way because while social media has also added in all these wonderful tools and resources for us to use, it's also added in this whole nother element of, you know, a lot of people, and it comes down to a lot of people just, everybody can cosplay, everybody's at different levels, and everybody's level is valid. And unfortunately, there's just people out there that won't respect that people are at different levels, at different skill sets, at different budgets. I mean, not everybody can afford to dump $500-600 into a cosplay or buy an expensive sewing machine or embroidery machine. Um, and that's one of kind of the downfalls. It's just people, honestly, Console said it best. Just there's a standard that it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be a standard that you have to meet in order to be considered a good cosplayer or for your cosplay to be considered a good cosplay. It shouldn't be that way.
Oh,
Um,
I wholeheartedly
so
agree. Koi, want to give your 2 cents about how people shouldn't like set these high standards for themselves once again in the cosplay, and they shouldn't like be afraid and stuff
No,
like that.
I 100% agree. Everybody's cosplay is going to be a little bit different. Wigs are going to be different. Makeup's going to be different. Like there's going to be some aspects of a cosplay that you don't like, that you personally don't want, or you're going to want to add your own touch. And honestly, that's what makes cosplay so beautiful. And for people to get hate about something of their cosplay not being game accurate or not being made out of metal or it could have been done better or like that. I think it's just absolutely ridiculous that hate towards cosplayers who don't want to be strictly accurate get cosplays are valid. Like cosplayers who do paper wigs, that's
That
insane to
that's amazing.
Like, yeah, I was like, I would have never thought of that. Like yarn wigs, like from the game It Takes Two. Like people actually going through and making wigs out of yarn, that's absurd. That's insane. I would have never thought to do that. Like that's what makes cosplay so beautiful, is that everything's different. Everybody has their own little bit of touch to it. And those cosplayers should not be looked down upon for doing that. It's just like, we're all, at the end of the day, we're all here to have fun. We're all here to make friends. We're here to show off what we've created, and we should all be lifting up one another.
Oh, I agree. I mean, to kind of go on that little thing about wigs, even like those wigs that look like diamonds I've seen
Mhm.
or in pro, like, and the fact that some people make those is impressive.
Yeah.
Um, so back to Koi. What type of, in like your own words, what kind of advice would you want to give to someone who's, either considering on getting into cosplay or they just started?
Honestly, what I would say is be yourself. Do do what you want to do. If you like, oh my God. Um, if you want to add, like, once again, like your own little touch to a cosplay to make it a little bit more unique, do it. Don't be worried about what other people are going to say, because at the end of the day, you're doing this for yourself. You're doing something that makes you happy. And if you don't feel comfortable being like 100% like anime accurate or video game accurate, like, then don't like carry that with you. None of like these cosplayers or costumes are 110% accurate. Everybody has to fix something. Everybody has to do something to a wig to make it like fit their face shape a little bit better. It's, you're doing this for yourself, and don't take what other people say to heart. Unless they're like genuinely, like, unless you're reaching out for advice, don't genuinely take like a passerby at a convention going, ooh, like, to the heart. There's always going to be someone out there who likes what you've done. And just because they're not actively voicing it doesn't mean that it's not there.
Some pretty good advice, and I gotta first say off, like, you guys like already answered half the questions I was gonna ask. Like, you already brought it up. It's like, well, I don't have to like, cross that one or cross that. I'm not mad. Like, it's nice when they like bring up the, like I say, if you have a topic to bring up, bring it up, because then I won't have to ask it. Shadow, same question in your own words. What type of advice would you want to give for someone who wants to get into cosplay or is just starting out?
Well, let me think. Koi actually kind of took mine, so I got to think of something else. No, no, don't feel bad. I was sitting here thinking, please don't take mine. Please don't take mine. Um, I would say, okay, so this is something that I've always had to deal with. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to learn something new. Um, because when I first started out, I didn't know Jack. Okay, and I still know very little. I know enough to get by and to not have my cosplay just fall apart at a convention, but I'm sure there's much better ways of doing things. Um, excuse me. I think it would be when I say don't be afraid to learn something new is because, you know, if someone gives you some advice, take it, see if it works for you. Don't be scared of new methods, new tools. Um, I know for a fact, when I first started doing things, like I was intimidated by sewing, just because I didn't know the differences in the stitches. I didn't know the major differences between fabrics and that you were supposed to use like certain needles for different fabrics, and it was really intimidating. Like one example I can give is that my one of my earlier costumes I did was Cat Noir from Miraculous Ladybug. And
Nice.
I had never worked with this type of fabric before. It was Yaya Han's four-way pleather stretchy material, if you guys know what I'm talking
I
about.
know
So
I've seen it at I've seen it at one of the craft stores here in
yeah.
town.
Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. I had never worked with a stretchy material before, and I didn't know, you were supposed to use like a smaller needle to minimize the holes, and you have to like pin it a certain way to make it like stitch
I
right.
there's a can I show a picture real quick to the panelists? I
Yeah,
found it on
sure.
your Instagram.
I also figured out today from one of my other cosplay friends, Suki J, is that there's stretchy thread.
Really?
Yeah, which I was like mind blown about. So that was really interesting to learn about.
Oh, you're wearing the Nokomimi ears. Sorry, I saw a video of the ears movie.
Actually, no, those are not. Those are from a brand called Cosgear. They originally made robotic tails.
Oh, I've seen those.
Um,
People use them for their
I
tieflings.
I actually won their first drawing for a set of Cosgears, and I still have them.
Nice.
I need to. They've been used so much, so their casing is kind of starting to crack.
I didn't mean to change the subject. I just saw the ears and the cosplay.
Oh no, you're totally fine. But like so that was a learning experience. I had never worked with stretchy material. This most recent one I did, Cult of the Lamb, the entire body was Sherpa and Minky fleece. Thank God it was a February convention. All right, let me tell you, 'cause I'll show you a picture right there. So
Ooh,
see.
thank goodness it was a February, not a summer convention, or that.
Yes, amen. This is definitely a winter cosplay, but I wasn't used to working with thick materials. I messed up a lot, got discouraged, and I learned new things about working with it. But the big tie-in is don't be afraid to learn something new. You're gonna get discouraged, you're gonna get frustrated, you're gonna get to the point where you want to throw your hot glue gun or your sewing machine through the window and get aggravated at it.
Has anyone been and has anyone wanted to do that on this panel? Throw your cosplay windows. Okay, show okay.
When I made my Inuyasha cosplay, I think I had to seam rip his pants 4 or 5 times because I kept stitching it wrong. That's the story for another time. But
Oh yeah.
um, but yeah, so don't be afraid to try new things. You're gonna get discouraged. Get used to it. It's part of it, and just keep taking every little bit of knowledge you can, add it to it, and keep going. But don't let it stop you. That's the biggest thing that I can offer.
Some pretty sound advice. And last but not least, console advice for those who want to get into cosplay or just like recently started cosplaying.
Yeah, I would just say there is no one right way to do anything in cosplay. So if it works for you, it works. And that's just how it is. Like if you prefer a some building material, if you prefer cardboard over EVA foam to make your armor, use cardboard. It's still cool. Like it,
Oh,
whatever works for you is what's going to work for your cosplay and for you, and that if it makes you comfortable, then that's fine. That's what works. So don't be discouraged when you see or when you are told that this one way is the right way to do a thing, because oftentimes there's so many other ways to do something. How did we find out that EVA foam works well for armor in the first place? Someone at some point looked at a floor mat and was like, I can make something out of that. Someone at some point had to look at something and decide that they were going to make something out of it. So there is no one right way to do something. Ingenuity comes from each person individually and how they experiment and work with different materials. So constantly experiment, constantly work with different things, because you might find something new and cool that works really well for you that you can then share to the world and to the cosplay community.
Some pretty good sound advice. Honestly. And again, you guys answered questions I was gonna ask, so I thank you for that. I think we just minorly smidged hit the hour mark, so I think that should do it. Real quick, as always, though, starting out with Koi, if you like, would you like to share your links below in case people want to follow you and stay up to date with your cosplays?
Yeah, pretty much on everything because I'm mostly on Instagram. It's Koi Cosplay Pond. And then if you're feeling brave enough, my Twitter is Koi Does. It's either Koi Does Stuff or Koi Does Cosplay.
Link for that will be below. ShadowClaw, care to drop those links below in case hey, if people want to follow you or your wife to stay up to date with your cosplay builds and everything.
Yes, so I am ShadowClaw Cosplay on pretty much everything, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I am usually first to post on Instagram just because that's usually where most of my stuff defaults to, or I'll let it cross post to like Facebook too. Twitter, I mostly just reshare art. Kind of lazy when it comes to Twitter and TikTok.
Oh no, I'm with you on the whole Twitter thing.
And TikTok, I have about, let me see, I have about 1,200 sounds saved of things that I want to make. So eventually I'm gonna get through that.
Same.
When when the time comes. But my lovely fiance, she has a couple accounts. She doesn't really cosplay much anymore, but all of her plushies, her plushie account is Sunny Side Up Stuffies. She kind of has some of her plushies on there
Pikachu!
that she made. Yeah, she made the Raichu. He's fully handmade, and she made me. If I can find a picture of him, she actually made me a lamb from Cult of the Lamb. Let me see. There
What?
he is.
Oh, I want him so bad.
She's actually working on another one for an order right now. But
Oh,
she does customs. And then she also has an art account. Let me make sure I get it right. Hold on. It is Sunny Konkon, Konkon. Um,
okay. I'll have you
if
send
you
me the.
can see.
I'll have
Okay.
you send me the Instagram so
Okay.
I can do my
But
thing.
yeah, and then all those on the platforms. I want to say one more thing real quick because Consul said something earlier about when somebody looked at the floor mat, and the first thing that popped into my head was the meme of the car salesman, and all I could think of is that slapping a floor mat, this bad boy could make so many cosplays or something like that. Like, I need this on a shirt or a mug or something. Like somebody we need to get on that. Like slaps floor mat.
Oh man.
That's a new merch idea for you, Wayne.
Yeah, there you
Oh,
go. There you go.
I mean,
So good.
I
That
already
would
have,
be top
I already,
tier.
thanks to another friend, I already have one where they talked about, well, yeah. Anyway, console. I mean, I know you have dropped a few times, but for those who are new here to listen or watching, care to drop those links below so you can stay up to date with your cosplay content and also the seal pose one.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I am Consul of Cosplay, consul.of.cosplay on all of my accounts. I'm most active on Instagram, but I do also have a TikTok, and I am working on getting a YouTube up and running.
Ooh, I'll be sure to subscribe to that.
Oh, thank you. And then if you want to see really dumb seal photos, that's a whole other story. Here's my little seal mascot that one of my friends made me.
I didn't mean to drop it. I do love the seal pose things you guys do.
Yeah, so I do this stupid little seal pose anytime I get into cosplay, with friends and stuff like that. So if you want to see dumb seal poses, it's onlyseals.cos. So
I just want to point out, I see you guys doing that literally all the time. Like at Komori Con, at Sakura Con, I'm just like, I die every time. I think my favorite one is with you guys on the stair with double mischief cosplays.
Yes,
Shout out to
yes.
Double, shout out to
That
Double
by
Mischief.
far has to be one of my favorite ones ever.
I need
And
to
if you guys
Photoshop
ever
all these seals
do
now.
seals, send them my way, and they'll eventually get posted on the seals account.
I
And
still got to do a
yeah.
seal post with you guys one of these days. If
I'm
Heck
if-
down.
yeah.
if-
And
if-
I'm gonna
down.
do bad ribbons for seals. I'm gonna have bad
Yes.
ribbons, so if you take a seal photo with me,
You
you'll
want?
get a bad ribbon.
I'm coming at you at Kumo this year. I'm gonna find you and we're gonna do a seal pose.
Heck yeah.
Bad
I'm
ribbons are
so
so
excited.
Friends. Oh yeah.
I
no.
would also like to say I forgot that I have a TikTok because it just skipped my mind. I was like, everyone's here talking about TikTok. And I was like, I have one of those. And it's just Toy Cosplay Pond.
I mean,
I need to go follow both of you guys right
yeah,
now.
no, that's the one thing I like about these panels. For those who want to come on, those are new. I highly recommend coming onto a panel because it's the best way to follow new cosplayers. I highly recommend it. I can't recommend it enough. And also, Koi and Shadow, I hope you both also enjoyed your first time coming on to Cosplay Con Talk for a podcast panel. And
Absolutely.
hopefully to have you guys on for solo interviews later down the road, because I also love doing those too. But
Oh,
I
100%.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun.
I was recommended by the Discord I have that I need to do more podcast panels. So it's like, okay, well, why not do one based off a question that I always ask during the solo interviews. Anyway, you all know where you can find me. You can find me on Twitter when I'm on there, TikTok when I decide to go on there, Facebook page, MySpace. I don't use that anymore. Had to give a little shout out to a quote that from a buddy of mine. But yeah, as always, I am Wayne the Unknown. Until next time, thank you for listening, and as always, thank you for watching.